cameras are actually capturing the energy. Other colleagues, these areas forward.
Taking forward the child and family welfare. So when the internet came, we saw that we needed to crop in this agenda as well and work with our communities and our beneficiaries, telling them what to do. So today, it will just be an experience that I'm going to share with all of you. And it is entitled Empowering Community Leaders to Combat Online Child Sexual Exploitation Through Digital Skills. What I'm going to talk, it will be how we started, what is our geographical perspective within the sub-African region. I'm also going to talk about the SDG 16, the COVID-19, where everybody knows what it is, children and internet, online child sexual exploitation, this is the main theme, and how to ensure that children can benefit the advantages of the digital environment while being safe and protected. And finally, I'll conclude by saying what is a way forward that we are saying. So, as I told you, Mauritius IGF started in 2017 and is a collaborative leadership event that encourages policy dialogue between state and non-state actors and amongst all stakeholders on the issue of internet governance. I am proud to say that even the corporate sector, the state, the NGOs, the media, all these people are together with us. They know that we are working for the beneficiaries. We are working so that children need to know what is fair and what is good. So all our stakeholders are together with us. Mauritius IGF aims at providing a forum at the national and regional levels that engages industry, academicians, educational institutions, media, and civil society on debates about internet governance. As I told you earlier, the first annual meeting of the Mauritius IGF was held in November. The proposed African sub-regional event is an initiative of hosted by our NGO, which is called the Hali Movement. And I am proud to say that we have also extended our geographical coverage to Madagascar, Comoro Island, Seychelles, Rodrigue Island, including Mauritius as well. Mauritius Youth IGF was launched on July, just a week earlier. Let me talk about the SDG 16. What is it? Sustainable Development Goals, target 16.2. This target is entitled End Abuse, Exploitation, Trafficking, and all forms of violence against and torture of children. This is what we are taking forward in our islands. The target of the UN agenda by 2030, we need to ensure every child is protected from violence, exploitation, and when we work with, and we have so many parts working for the benefit of child family welfare, we need to look at harmful practices that we as NGOs can tell our beneficiaries, beware of such and such things. This is what we are actually doing. We just passed through COVID-19. The unprecedented pandemic COVID-19 has been a threat around the world for 2 years. As per the introduction of the lockdown, IT systems have been the backbone of various countries, services, as well as organizations. This is something very real. I have been listening to all the presenters since this morning, and we are all talking in the same line. Organizations around the world were raising awareness on digital divide. Digital technology has a numerous benefits as well as threats. Children are becoming the common and frequent users of social media sites, which is very real right now. The digital world comes with a number of dangers, from the misuse of the personal information to cyberbullying or even to online child sexual abuse, which we need to be aware of. As parents and as NGO leaders, we need to work for the children. We know what's happening right now. We need to be very beware. Let's talk about children and internet. Internet is in the everyday life of children and is important to the education and social development of children and young people. And global data indicates that children's usage is increasing. We are all aware about that. It can be argued that children are living in a digital world online and offline. Distinction no longer represent separate social spaces. On a daily basis, 200,000 children go online for the first time, and 800 million are actively using social media, and simultaneously, 750,000 individuals try to connect with children online across the globe for sexual purposes. We are going to talk about online child sexual exploitation. During confinement, many girls and boys have been victims to sexual abuse and exploitation. And this is very, in Mauritius, and online counseling. very many cases which have been recorded. The COVID-19 pandemic has put millions of youngsters at risk due to isolation, school closing, and social service cutbacks. Every single incident of violence against a child is a tragedy that may have lifelong consequences. Lately, Mauritius has seen an increase in cases of child sexual abuse, and this is unfortunately the trend worldwide as well, with the increasing internet access, mobile phones, and other technical devices. The risk faced by children significantly is growing. In Mauritius and Rodrigue Island, I'm not mentioning Madagascar or Seychelles, children are exposed to those risks. A recent discovery of pedopornography network in Rodrigue is just a small island near to Mauritius, is a cruel reminder of the harm that digital technology can do to children. How do we ensure that children can benefit the advantages of the digital environment while being safe and protected? This is a main target of NGOs working for children. More and more children at a young age are being introduced to the digital world, and the threats and dangers they experience online are also increasing. We are all aware about. Mauritius IGF has decided to implement a series of actions to alert parents, teachers, and other stakeholders as children themselves to those dangers with a view of adopting a more cautious behavior while children are online. Publication of leaflets together with the Ombudsperson for Children in Mauritius on key actions to fight online child sexual abuse, as well as emergency telephone numbers. These leaflets are being distributed freely along with the daily local newspapers. We have also produced an eco-friendly jute bag with a motto, "Every child has the same rights," and an exercise book with the Article 29 of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. Copies have been distributed to schools, policymakers, civil society, and the public in general in Mauritius. What is the way forward for Mauritius IGF? Because here I'm speaking on behalf of Mauritius IGF. To improve the awareness of children, teachers, and parents on the dangers of digital technology and encouraging them to make a more cautious advocacy of Mauritius IGF in the islands for better eradicating the people about, or better educating the people about the security issues and its precautions, and also encouraging parents to create safe spaces for their children to discuss their online activities. Definitely, this will allow children who are victims to report such cases before matters get out of hand. And definitely, there are so many cases where matters are getting out of hand. Creating awareness to children with the help of booklets, for example, just as Hali Movement, our NGO, is pursuing to ensure that the knowledge of their way forward around the internet and what to avoid while browsing. And organizing podcasts to educate the community on the intelligent usage of internet. I'm going to end by saying Africa is renowned for its beauty, its natural heritage and prolific resources. But equally, the image of its suffering children haunts the conscience of our continent and the world. We need to look after our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahan, for that wonderful presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, I think at this point in time, if you have any questions, comments with regards to Mahan's presentation, we'll be welcoming those right now. Sorry, my name is Shamil, and I'll just be standing in for my colleague who went to the other session. Thank you. I see a hand here.
Thank you very much. It's good to welcome you to Malawi after a long time. Two issues that I just want to learn. My name is Macben Mkandaira. I work with YouthNet and Counseling. If you look for YouthNet and Counseling in Malawi, you'll not find it, but just ask for your NECO, you will get it. The issue of parents is becoming a critical issue. 3 weeks ago, I was talking to some young people organized by Meta. And one of the things that the children raised in that session was how us as parents tend to abuse them by liking things like pornography. And the question that was very direct to me was, so what do you do with a parent who likes pornography and they want to be showing you pornography? And I was shocked. I'm still trying to grapple with it, but it's something that we might want to, sometimes we think that children don't notice, but they do notice. So that question came to me, and since I was presenting online, I was in Zomba, and the meeting was in Lilongwe, I did follow up with the organizers to say, is it possible that we follow up with the child who was raising that question? It might be because it was a girl, she's being abused by someone within the house, because that's one thing. The second thing that I just want to raise is that as parents, we don't know how much we provide space to children to be abused online. So we think we have got passwords to our phones, but children are very smart. Give a child your phone, she will just monitor your hands the way they are moving on your phone, and will be able to master your password. And all those things that you keep, as adults, we get that content that comes to us from our friends and the like. And then we give the same phone where we have got that content, and say the child is going to play some games. And then they lock themselves in the bedroom trying to play some games, and they really play games and see all those things that you have as an adult. So those are the things that we expose our children to. The number 3 is that parenting has become a big issue currently, because we seem to be parenting our children through cartoons. And we will give the phones to our children to play games, to do cartoons and the like. That's the time that they begin to start getting to what is it that we can get. And I usually give this example. Some 2-3 years ago, a friend came to me and said, oh no, you know what? Since I bought my child a tap, she always locks herself in the bedroom. And I was like, as a child protection person, my immediate reaction was, do you know what she's doing on the tap? And this friend says, no, you see, now she doesn't even go out, and she doesn't talk about going to play. She plays on the tap. And me, being an 11-year-old girl, I was immediately said, okay, can we look at the tap? So I gave her just a tip in terms of how she can check on what the child is going, because I was sure that at 11, some children are very smart. At 11, they will be able to watch, see everything, and remove the history. But others may not. So I said, just check. Went there. The next thing, the friend calls me and she's crying. And I'm saying, what? What's the problem? And says, all space is just pornography. And then I said, can you find out where she learned that? And she was in a private school. And those of us who send children to private schools, because the access to that kind of phone is for the haves and not the have not. So those of us who send children to private schools, that's where they also learn a lot. And there probably it would be high time that we should be talking about child sexual abuse, starting with maybe these high schools, and then creating that awareness. But I would want to say the issue you are talking about is real in Malawi. As UNESCO, have done a few projects, but we have also seen that there is a very high need to begin to start creating awareness about that. The biggest culprit is the parent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mac. Very interesting conversation as we're trying to balance access and children's safety as well. I'll take the next one. Please remember to mention your name, institution, if possible.
Thank you very much, and also for a great, insightful presentation. My name is Nomonde Gongaga Sopa, and I'm head of public policy, looking after the SADC region. I work for Meta, formerly known as Facebook. I think I met you, say, your same platform that you're referring to. So we were like literally about 2 weeks ago, we're here in Malawi, and we hosted a safety roundtable for learners. And having worked in the media space for a long, long time, in the olden days, we only called it media literacy. And now that we have transitioned into social media, it is so important that we also transition this whole dialogue into social media literacy. And hence why we were here in Malawi to offer this training to young people, because we felt it important that they need to know how to keep themselves safe online, but more so how to be responsible online, to empower them and equip them with the necessary resources. But also at Meta, we have different programs, safety programs, which we offer to educators, to adults, and various different groups. So this is the work that we continue to do. But the one thing that came out clearly that day when we had this workshop, we also held a safety campaign last year in Mauritius. We were working with the ZMU, same thing around the Safer Internet Day for Children. The one thing that became very clear is that there was a collaborative effort, where this issue is actually concerned. How we, even us as Meta, can work even closer with what you call education departments, because this is where most of the learners are. And if we can even consider making sure that we have from one of the literacy programs where they get taught about social media, how to be responsible and how to stay safe online. And from a safety perspective, it does not only touch on children alone, but it touches on society in its entirety. So I'm just sharing some of the efforts that we do. We are going to be here until the end of the week. Anyone who's really care, I suppose all of us are here. We care about our children and the safety of our children online. I'm happy to avail myself just so that we can explore how we can assist you coming from different countries. Thank you.
Thank you for that brilliant submission. I'll go for you. I think I know to your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Mese Kamanga. I work for a private institution in telecoms, but I've got my own passion when it comes to security. So I also work with MAGA, Malawi Girl Guide Association, which looks into empowering the girl child, as well as making sure that we're looking at the education side of the Girl Guide. So I'm so much interested in this. But my question to you is, you've mentioned, you gave us an overview of what you do, but I would really appreciate if you can just give us examples of the initiatives, particular initiatives that you've made, like the content, because you've said that you share with the children the publication. What do you include in the publication? What sort of stuff? Because I'm thinking we really don't have much publication. I don't know, maybe other people have seen, but in Malawi, we really don't talk about how secure the kids or the children can be online. And I believe this is the right time for us to form such type of initiatives that we can bring forward to our children and be able to advocate or make them aware of what they can do or what they can't do. So maybe if you can just give us some sort of activities and maybe what you include in your publication to get to their level of understanding so that they are more secure on the internet. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I give my hand a chance, I'll just take one more hand and then we'll get it back to him to respond.
Good morning. I'm Kate Moore from Ministry of Education, ICT. Thank you for the very beautiful presentation, but I would like to just learn from you on how you work with the schools in your country on issues to do with child online protection in relationship to the online content for learners. How do you handle that practically, and how do you work with the governments there? I would really like to learn from you. Thank you.
Very, very valid points right there. Mayan, I'll just give you this chance to attend to the questions that were asked, and then I will take the next round. Thank you.
Thank you, Shamil, for helping me and my audience to get questions to me. And it's really an honor to be explaining to you what we are doing in Mauritius. But let me first start with what my friend from Malawi, my friend Mark Bain, talked about. I still remember in 2018, we both had a training session in China, in Beijing. And when I'm listening to Mark Bain, it's the same thing that he repeated over there during the training programs. Thank you, Mark Bain. And these are the things that we have brought together in Mauritius. Yes, we are working on online child sexual education. In 2018, maybe the things were not that difficult at that time. I still remember what Mark Bain did during the training session in Beijing. And many of those inputs have been put together in Mauritius right now. There are so many things we need to do. We have a collaborative session with Mark Bain, and I think we still need to go along. Thank you, Mark Bain. I'm going to answer the last question from the representative of the ministry and ICT. You asked what we are doing as a responsible NGO in Mauritius. Our main focus is capacity building. If we have, say, 15 members within my organization, to cater for so many children within Mauritius, these 15 staff can't go forward with. So regularly, we have capacity building in schools, in colleges, and with the community, including religious leaders. What do? We schedule the training sessions for at least a week. And during the training sessions, we impart to them what are the solutions. This is a problem. How do we get along? And these people, we monitor them for at least 6 months. They decide whom they are going to form, to train within their region. And we just follow them. So these are the things we do normally. If you wish also to know what we are doing, you can just go within the Hale Movement website, halemovement.org. You'll have so many of our publications. I'm also linking this question to my colleague before the last one, who is working within the telecom and with the NGO. And you wanted to have examples of initiatives. We can talk about it later on, but let me answer to you right now. When you go to the website, you'll find that in 2020, we scheduled the Mauritius IGF 2020. And this was done at such a level where we got so many solutions to share, not only in Mauritius, but with all our international colleagues. So wherever you go there, you get the recommendations and you know how to go forward. But anyway, I'm here. We can discuss after that. And the second question, the person from the media who wanted to know about our online measures and the safety precautions that we take. So it's the same thing that I just repeated. We need to look at these things. And I'll just recall what Mark Bain said. Children are very intelligent right now. We might be parents. We might be older than them, definitely. But these child are very cunning. And within this digital world, what we are doing as parents, we are helping our children to get access to everything. And in reality, most of us do not know what is the future. What are the dangers? Because during our time, we did not pass through this difficult situation. So we need to be very careful. The internet is growing every day. It is enriching. We need to be very happy with that. But let me also confide to you, there are so many dangers getting accompanied with it. So we need to be very careful. The children are our future. We don't need them to get into online child sexual exploitation while they are encountering or discussing with friends online. Thank you, Shamil.
Thank you, Mahan. We still have some time. Remember, we're talking about empowering community leaders to combat, or rather to make sure that our children are protected online. So I will note another round of questions and comments right now. Please, if you have questions, comments, going once. Thank you. I note you. And then who else? Okay.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Toba Albani. I'm from Nigeria, and I'm a parent of 2 young kids. There was a sad situation in Nigeria very recently where some children went for a field trip, I think in Dubai, and then there was a case where a video became viral about how some of them were involved in sexual activities. Now, naturally, the school was held responsible because the school assigned chaperones and teachers who should have done necessary things to avoid that case. And the mother of the child claimed that her daughter was raped. Unfortunately, after investigations, they found out that, number one, the different genders were separated on different floors. So there had to have been deliberate attempt by the kids to meet up. And number two, the mother didn't even know her daughter. Apparently, her daughter had actually been posting sexually suggestive content on social media, and the mother had absolutely no clue. The mother thought her daughter was a victim, whereas investigations suggested that her daughter was the instigator. Now, this is very worrisome because we're talking about the roles of parents, but we are gradually getting to time when parents are no longer the authority as they used to be. I remember while growing up, my parents used to be very, very strong, and they determined the kind of child I'll become. But in today's world, parents are not as powerful and influenced as they used to be. Children are exposed to digital technologies that introduce them to so many things. And I've seen some parents take certain actions, such as depriving their children or not exposing their children at an early age to digital technology, with the hope that by the time they do get exposed, they would have at least built some kind of character that will protect them. But unfortunately, these children mix with other kids in school who are exposed. So, I mean, no matter how hard you try, your children will still be exposed to peer pressure, meet people, and parents are not even there. The teachers, who should be the guardians, are also being deceived because there's so much you can do. So today's world, we have very smart children that know how to act innocent, but they actually know a lot more than even their parents. In many cases, they know and are familiar with digital technology so much so that they can actually, trick their parents, and the parents have absolutely no clue. I remember, when Apple released this fingerprint technology, talking about how secure it was, then there was a story of how a child easily cracked it. Parents sleeping, take fingerprint, phone opened. Doesn't even need password, right? So that's how smart children are. So my question is this: with this real understanding of the fact that we have very little control over things our children are exposed to, I mean, yes, we can be deliberate. For example, there are a lot of technologies that have child protection, such that, For example, I'll use YouTube as an example. You have YouTube Kids. So you could give your child a device that has only certain apps installed that are children friendly. So there's some work you can do from home, but your children get outside the house. Your children mix with people, and there's so much you can do to control what they have access to. So what would we say is a realistic solution, considering the fact that a parent can only control their own domain? How do we protect our children from exposure to technologies, exposure to things that they have no control over, and they even have absolutely no clue because maybe their friends are already exposed to these things? And this was also a problem while we were growing up, but it's much worse right now because, I mean, there's just so much up there, and it seems almost as if there's very little that the parents can do. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I share the same sentiment. Actually, I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek. And I remember in one of his sayings, in one of his sessions, he mentioned how our role as parents is very limited because you're only responsible for your child as far as when they are home. But even when they're home on social media and they're at school and they're exposed to other children who pornography, as Mac had said earlier, is something that their daddies or mamas show them, So I think there's a very interesting conversation as to how do we balance that, empowering our children, but also making sure that they are protected. Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm Bennett Kankozi from Malawi University of Science and Technology. I just want to contribute to the conversation, very meaningful conversation, especially when we're looking at today's world, in which the parents are kind of pressured to make sure that their kids are digitally included. Okay. The speakers mentioned this fact that we have this pressure. Let's say our kids are learning at private schools. You would find that in private schools, they're exposed to a lot of things, okay? And as the previous speaker was saying, as a parent, you now have that problem to decide, to say, should I expose my kids to technology or not? Because if you don't expose the kids to technology, you think that the kids are being left behind. But then the challenge is also, what are the kids getting exposed to by using technology? So indeed, we need to make sure that we strike a balance, okay? How do we not digitally exclude our kids, okay? At the same time, how do we make sure that they are protected? Because nowadays you see parents giving their smartphones to the kids. They are busy on WhatsApp, okay? And then you see that the kid is on YouTube. Whatever they access, they hide from the parent, especially when you try to follow up to see what they're trying to follow up, what they're watching. So I think in this conversation, how do we strike a balance to make sure that we do not exclude our kids from technology, at the same time, we do not expose them from the harm of the internet. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I wonder, is there any other question on the side? Comment maybe? All right. Perhaps before let me give Mac before I get it back to my hand.
So the question of balancing, I'm just trying to support my friend here. The question of balancing, I think, is a fundamental one. I want to start by saying both the Mahendra and me are a child rights activists. And one of the things that the child rights talk about is that there are rights and responsibilities. So it should begin from the family, I think, in terms of how we manage the situation. Because if we don't manage it at family level, it will be very difficult to be managed at school level. I know Katie raised the question of relationship between organizations and schools. This is something that we also need to talk about because one of the things that has happened now is by misunderstanding child rights, have ended up disempowering teachers. So the teachers become so disempowered that to the extent that actually the control is from the parents to the child, where children would be talking things which are not right to the teachers. So I think we need to start looking at this value-based education from the house perspective. And then we should also be able to follow up what children are doing, and we should develop a liking of working with teachers. How many of those of us who are parents here, how many of us have watched a cartoon with our children? One, two. You'll find that in most cases, we will not have that time. The child is watching a cartoon and we are not interested to follow what is on the, or what is the child following. Now, when you follow that child on a cartoon, you are developing a relationship. So next time when you talk to this child about the dangers of internet and what she should not be able to do, we'll be able to listen to you because you have developed that bond. But for most parents this time around, believe you me, we seem to have no time for our children, even when we knock off. We knock off, we're at home, we're also on WhatsApp, 75% of the time, even the WhatsApp when you are sitting and eating. So these are things, small things that push children away from us and begin hiding things from us, even when they are being abused. He raised an issue of children being exposed and being in shelter. I want to say that as an educationist, trained educationist, one of the things is when children get into adolescent stage, they do begin to start looking at exploring things. And therefore, because we are not talking to them, we are not able to manage them. So to say that this child was probably perpetrating, I would also start saying, pushing back the blame to say, we did not manage the child. Being a teacher, there have been times when children would do naughty things to male teachers. And if a teacher harasses a child, for me, it is the teacher who is at fault because he has got that responsibility. So there should be there's so many things. It's a layer. Unfortunately, parenting this time has become so complicated. And we need to talk at different levels. At the school level, community level, local leaders in the church, let them talk about these things, and then we should be able to make progress. Otherwise, it's a thorny issue.
Absolutely, Mag. Thank you very much for those submissions, Mahan. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for the additional questions. I believe that McBain has been supportive and together he has already answered to the questions. Might be, I'm going just to say that it's quite difficult to work with children right now. We are sending our children to private and public schools, and we believe at the back of our mind that the teacher is responsible for what the pupil will be doing. It might be 50% okay, but that teacher, he might be a public servant or a staff working at the school. He won't go beyond certain steps to tell the child you are doing bad things, because that child may come back home and tell to his parents, you know, my teacher said that I don't need to be on internet, something like this. It might be not important, but I still believe that teachers, they know where to start and where to stop. I am again concurring to what McBain said. It is our responsibility. Things are changing right now. It's not 50 years ago or 30 years ago. Things have changed. We need to move ahead, talk with our child. When the child is watching something you mentioned, McBain, some drama or something like this within in the internet, we as parents, we as responsible parties, we need to join him. And I believe that when the child knows that the parent is together with him, he sides by you. And things can move a little bit positively. So I believe that it is our responsibility. I might not have answers for my friend who asked about the exposure to technology. Truly speaking, we don't know what to say. Things are moving so fast. The child is so adamant with his technology and internet that maybe we still don't believe what he is looking at. For us, it might be a novelty, what he is looking at. So we don't have the clues. We don't have the solutions. But one thing I would like to end by, the culture in Africa helps us to raise our children. We are very rich. We need to have this at the back of our mind. When we have children, let us work together with them and raise them appropriately. Because in many other continents, when you travel outside Africa, you can see how parents and children behave. This is not the same in Africa. In Africa, whatever the child does, his father and mother are responsible and looking at him. And the child knows it quite well, that his parents are there. Might be when the child goes after 18 years, 20 years, 25 years, things might become difficult, might become different. But right now, our culture is a good one. Let's take things positively. So many things are happening negatively, but we need to see how to solve them. Thank you. Thank you, Shamil.
Thank you, Mahan. There was a 10-minute that we actually didn't utilize, but because Mahan ended his statement with a question, how about I just drop it to the room and hear your recommendations as to, how do we empower community leaders to protect children online? How do we do that? Thank you. I know your hand. Is there any other recommendation? Any other recommendation as to how best to empower children online while making sure that they are safe? Is it by being big brothers, making sure that we, monitor each and everything that they are doing online, but doesn't that border on their privacy as well? And what is privacy for children,
Thank you. I think I'll start what you just said. Can minors have privacy? At least in Africa, I don't think so. And it's one of the things, and to also speak what the speaker said about Africa. Africa has a rich culture where parents are heavily involved in raising children. In the Western culture, a child has more independence than Africa, at least most African countries that I know. And it's an opportunity for us as parents. I think we need to be very, very involved. We are very busy, but our children cannot be left without, support from us. We need to know what they do. Our parents cannot afford not to understand digital technology. Many technologies have some kind of, would I say, child protection that parents need to learn. So I think the first thing, in my opinion, is that with governments and would I say organizations need to be involved in training and enlightening parents about how to use this technology safely. For example, and I'll use a very, very simple example, Netflix. There's a lot of content available on Netflix, but there's child protection. And every parent who has a young child has to enable child protection. DSTV, it's available with several content, but there's child protection. But you'd be surprised how many parents don't even know or have not even enabled that. And I'm talking about, this is what's available in many homes. Okay, YouTube. YouTube is an exposure to everything, but there's YouTube Kids for kids. Many mobile phones have a child option that when you enable it, only child-friendly apps are available. So even if you must give your phone to your kid, switch the mode so that your kid doesn't have access to your private profile, or you can create a different profile on your phone for your kid. But many parents don't know this. And so I think that a lot of education needs to go into understanding technologies to make them friendlier to children. And like has been said also, we cannot afford, all this whole concept of children need their privacy. No, not at all. We can't afford it because a lot of things go on when children are. Sorry. Okay. They're very, very smart. They know how to play innocent. I've seen a parent who has a child that she feels that the child is so unaware and so, such a good girl. She can't do things wrong. This parent doesn't allow this child to use TikTok, doesn't allow the child to use, the child has a feature phone. So the child is not exposed to digital technologies because she wants to raise a child. And it's great. It makes sense. Until one time I saw this child with other children and this child knows about this technology. This child uses this technology. So, I mean, we cannot hide from the fact that our children will be exposed, whether we like it or not. I think what we need to do is we need to gradually introduce them technologies, but also let them understand the dangers and also take deliberate steps to protect them. And I can imagine a world where every parent is doing this. Do you know what that means? It means that our children won't be influenced wrongly. But I think the problem is that even when we do it, I think we need to get involved. Government needs to get involved. I mean, I can see a lot of attempt. I mean, for example, in the Western world, it's because of some of these deliberate steps being taken against child exploitation that things started changing. I think if African governments also did the same, and if we also did a lot of mass education to educate parents, educate communities, and let's go back to those days where in a community, everybody raises a child. So once you see a child doing something wrong, even if the child is not yours, you would correct the child. That's what we grew up with. If Africa can return back to those beautiful cultures we used to have, we would have great children that will rule the world. Thank you.
Comments. He raised something there. Let's go back to the olden days. Have the train left the station as it regards to community parenting, and I'm a caretaker to an 11-year-old who is a coder, and then he's a gamer too. So he develops games online and he plays with his friends in India and elsewhere. I had to learn coding because the first time when I actually bought him a book on coding, I thought it was a starter. He was like, no, I know everything in here. And now I have to make sure that every time that he's behind his laptop, I just keep on peeping just to make sure what he's doing. But these children, they're exposed, on the backdrop of that gamification as they're developing games and everything, they learn about, sexual things and stuff like that. And it's really, really worrisome. How do I, as a young mother, ensure that my child, even though I want him to take up skills, to be informed and to continue, making a career for himself in gaming, how do I make sure that, he's not exposed to, he's not in danger. He's not used by porn sites and God knows who else. I don't even want to mention. I'm already getting shivers.
Thank you so much once again. I think one side effect which technology is bringing in is also the issue of addiction. Okay. Most of us now don't know that we are technologically addicted. We always want to be on WhatsApp. We always want to check status somewhere. That's a sign that one is technologically addicted. And now we want our kids to get addicted to technology at a very young stage. And one of the things which maybe we can look at is the technologies which they're exposed to. Talk of YouTube, talk of Facebook. They are not African oriented, we can say so. They are produced in the West, okay, with Western values, okay, and then you have the kid accessing this. I would wish if governments, for example, in Africa, would be strong enough, for example, to regulate issues of technology access, especially to kids. This is why you find that in the US, for example, you have Facebook for what? For kids. Instagram, they want to try to introduce Instagram for kids, something like that, because they know that you cannot have adult technology for kids, and that is well regulated there. In Africa, there is no regulation. Okay, you find that WhatsApp, no any regulation, Facebook, no regulation, YouTube, no regulation. I do believe that as a continent, governments should also take a critical role. And lastly, when McBain said that we need to empower teachers. I'm afraid you'll find that nowadays, if you try to discipline kids, they will say that I'm going to call your Neko. Okay? Yes, actually they threaten the teachers that are going to call your Neko. So I believe that even the civil society also have to make sure that when they're imparting this issue of rights to kids, they have to make sure they also inculcate that the rights have what responsibilities. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, ladies and gentlemen. My takeaways from the last two contributors is one on the systematic approach to ensuring that digital skills are embedded in our education system, and making sure that we actually preach this gospel in the language that the masses understand, in the language that a Malawian mama in the rural Malawi understands what digital technology is, and what its benefits and the cons thereof. And then also I got that we need to be involved as parents in our day-to-day lives of our children, balancing work and ensuring that you're also there for your children. But then again, I think this brings us to one thing: taking a self-interest perspective to approaching digitization and basically online child protection. As a parent, what is your position as it pertains to self-interest and your child being online? How would you like your child to be, to have access to, and how would you like them to be protected online? And it has been an absolute pleasure, my hand. This is me going right now, but thank you very much. You can say your last bit, comments maybe, and then it'll be, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Shamil. Thank you, colleagues. Maybe I have learned some more things today. Whenever you have an audience who is receptive to the themes that you are talking to, it is the truth that you get more things. In reality, I had things to share with you of the experience that we are working with in Mauritius. But what is happening in Nigeria, what is happening in Malawi, what is happening in the African continent, I might not have known some of the things. So thank you so much. Let's take our way forward and secure our children. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure if there's another session or it's lunchtime already. It's lunchtime. All right. Well, bon appetit in advance. Don't put my
you know?
Let me go to the bathroom.
Right.